Thank you for including me in what looks like a terrific conference. I look at the world through kind of a unique lens, and we're going to talk about sort of, with venture capital, where I see the trend heading with venture, but through the lens of family offices. And I think the reason that's important is family offices currently control $10 trillion in capital. And just to put that in perspective, there's $6.5 trillion globally in hedge funds. So it's greater than the hedge fund world. But even more importantly than that, in the next 20 years, there's $84 trillion that's being transferred from the baby boomers to the next gen. This is the largest transfer of wealth in history. So you, as founders of successful small to medium-sized venture capital firms who are probably looking to raise money, the family offices is a phenomenal opportunity and a great way for you guys ultimately to raise money. And we're going to touch a little bit on best practices and how to do that. As a backdrop, understand a couple things, and then we're going to talk about kind of the trends that I'm seeing happening. There's roughly 15,000 family offices in the world. 68% started since 2000 and half started since the crash. So this is a relatively new industry. The reason this is a really opportune time for everybody on this call who owns and runs a venture capital firm is I think you've got a tremendous opportunity. And here's why. If 68% of the family offices were started, half of them were started since the crash, post-crash, pre-COVID, everything went up. Venture capital, private equity, Bitcoin, the stock market, real estate, whatever you invested in worked. So a lot of the family offices did what I call direct deals, and they basically invested direct because why do I have to pay smart people like you $220 if I can make money? And it worked until it didn't. And now what do you see happening is as we head into a recession, not just in America, but all over the world, I see that more and more family offices, they're not only not making money now, they're losing money. And particularly in venture capital with what you guys do, unless you do venture capital full-time, you shouldn't do it. And what I see happening is a lot of these people that did the direct deals previously are going to right now focus on finding experts like you. So I think to raise money, it's a tremendous opportunity for you because, again, for the past 10 years, it was hard because people were like, why do I need you if I can make money anyways? But now they see that there's a real skill set and why you guys are paid. So I think now, because of what's happened the last year and a half, you've got a tremendous opportunity to raise money. I chaired the Disruptive Technology Center at Stanford University, and I gave a keynote there. And the person who was speaking right before me had a graph, and it had a picture of a fire, a picture of a wheel, the word internet, and the word blockchain. And that's how transformative at Stanford they felt that blockchain would become. And I agree with that. I would now add one additional word, which is artificial intelligence. And it really came into fruition. It's been around for decades, but the public, the mass market, who are the investors you're going after, it's only been a couple months with ChatGPT. So all of a sudden, people are realizing what AI can do. So I think one of the biggest trends that I see happening in venture capital is from a macro standpoint, artificial intelligence. Now, what's going to happen is there's going to be a ton of firms that come out and say, I'm an AI company, I'm an AI company. And they're going to use that as a phrase in order to bring in money. Most of them probably won't necessarily be AI companies. Most AI new companies, like in any industry when they started, are not going to work. But you're going to get some that are going to be home runs. And I think you've got a great opportunity right now in the AI space because it's going to be so disruptive to every aspect of society. I look at it right now as the biggest value add that I see AI is in healthcare. Because, my dad passed from cancer when he was 57 from prostate cancer. The artificial intelligence is going to be able to do so many things so much quicker to get the data that these people need to find the cures for cancer, for Parkinson's, for any kind of diabetes, for any kind of disease. And I think that that's the number one thing that's going to happen is for the first iteration is going to be in healthcare, right? I think you're going to see everyone kind of spreading out saying, we're AI, I want to do this, we're AI. But I think the lowest hanging fruit is figuring out ways, because that's just collecting data. And I think by collecting data to find things faster than human beings can find it is remarkable. Now, one of the interesting things is I teach at Stanford and I'm going to be teaching at University of Chicago. And one of the interesting things that I learned was 10% of the people who are founders of who are experts in artificial intelligence and are founders of artificial intelligence companies, 10% believe this will be the end, this will wipe out civilization. Now, having said that, I don't believe that's going to happen, but you've got a lot of people, really smart people who know artificial intelligence better than most, who see that there could be a tremendous amount of downside as well as upside. So the glass is half full, and I think there's going to be a tremendous opportunity, but I'm also pragmatic, and I also understand what's going to happen. And it's going to be a cat and mouse game with the good guys and the bad guys. The good guys are going to do something, the bad guys are going to get smarter, the good guys will get smarter, and it's going to go back and forth and back and forth. But I think this is a tremendous opportunity for people in your world to take advantage of the fact that there's so much that can change, and there's so much, the speed at which everything can change. I think venture capital, Carter did a study that in the past 12 months, year to year, the average Series B company was down 50%, 12 months over 12 months, and the average Series C company was down 75%. That's significant, but that's also opportunity, because right now, this is a great time to invest, because a lot of the earlier stage and middle stage companies have really, really been hit. And they've probably been hit too hard. So if you're investing now, I think you've got a tremendous opportunity, because you're not investing in a bubble. You're investing, in my opinion, it may go down a little bit more, but it's already gone down exponentially. So I think from a marketing standpoint, you're at a very good position. I also think from a marketing standpoint, you're at a great position, because as I said, for family offices, which has 10 trillion and 84 trillion coming downstream, they've lost money. And they thought they were just as smart as you guys because they were making money. But there's a skill set to doing what you do. And now a lot of these family offices are pivoting and reevaluating how they are investing in asset classes in general, but in venture capital in particular. Because venture is an asset class that, again, if you don't do this 24 hours a day, if you do it half-assed, you're going to get crushed in venture, right? So you need people like you, the investors, the market needs people like you who are experts in this space to do it. And they didn't fully realize that until they started getting hurt 12 to 18 months ago, when we started to see the market go down. We saw interest rates go up quicker than they've ever gone up, and it's changed a lot. I also think in venture capital, the valuations, a lot of venture capital firms that have not fully marked everything mark to market yet, in my opinion. Most have, but there's still a lot. I'd say not most. I'd say a lot have and a lot have not. And eventually they're going to have to. So there has been carnage in the venture capital space, but that's also where you create huge opportunity. And that's where you could really create wealth, because you're now investing at a point where you would never invest in these companies when they were trading up here. But now that they're trading down here and you guys are investing in different companies, it's a phenomenal opportunity to invest in venture. So I think you guys are in a tremendous sweet spot right now to raise money, not just from family offices, which is the world through which I look at things, but to the market in general. And I see AI as the driving force of what's really, you're going to be seeing AI in everything, AI doing this and AI doing that. So that's one thing you're going to see. With blockchain, I do believe that in cryptocurrency, where I'm not an expert, I've been told that 90% of the of the coins are probably worth zero, but 10% of these coins are worth a lot. So I think there's opportunities there with Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of these companies to really, because a lot of them have taken a hit, and I think it's a really good time to get in. a lot of times people, when Bitcoin got to 62,000, that's when the retail investors started getting in, and that's not what you want to do. Now I think trading around 30,000 is a terrific time. I think that healthcare is a great sector right now because of how much it's changing. Anything to do with AI is going to be really relevant right now. Blockchain, again, not crypto in particular, but blockchain in general is transformative, and it'll change the way people do things. So I think you've got a wonderful opportunity here. And also remember that I'm 59. When I was in college, I had a typewriter. So I had a Smith Corona whiteout key. If I wanted to type something, and it would turn and I could, white out the letter A. We had computer classes, so we didn't have desktops. If you think about where we are now, and everybody in this call, there has been a greater change, in my opinion, from my generation to my children's generation. I have 19 and 22-year-old daughters. They're wonderful kids. And there's been a greater change from my generation to their generation than there has from one generation to the next. I would argue going back even past the Industrial Revolution, because we didn't have this thing called the internet when I was growing up. We didn't have this thing called blockchain. We didn't have this thing called artificial intelligence. So I think with venture, it's going to solve a lot of societal problems, and venture philanthropy has also become a really important thing too, because there's a lot of good things that can happen. So there's a whole bunch of stuff I could talk about from a macro standpoint. Because I want to leave a couple minutes for Q&A, but I will leave you with this. I think that people who, like everybody on this call, who runs a small to medium-sized venture capital firm and is looking to grow, I think you're an incredible opportunity right now. I think the next 3 to 5 years will be tremendous for you, and you've got great opportunity. I think that you have to stay away from the noise and investing in figuring out not just AI in general, but what type of AI is going to look good? What type of healthcare companies are going to look good? So I think you've got where you guys sit right now, even though the last 12 to 18 months has been, I'm sure, a challenge, not just for you guys, but people in real estate, for people in private equity. I mean, everyone's getting hit right now, but now is a great time to raise money and going forward. So with that, I'm happy to open it up to any questions you have. And Daria, if you want to talk to anybody in the audience, or however you want to do it, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your speech. Yeah, I'll drop the mic here to Dustin so he can take the questions from the audience. Dustin, the mic is yours.
Thank you so much, Ron. So question for you, Ron Diamond, where do you go to learn? Because there's a lot of information online, and one can sometimes fall for the FUD aspect, that fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt. So where do you go to learn?
The family office market, what's fascinating about it is this is where venture capital and private equity were in the mid-'80s. In the mid-'80s, you had publicly traded companies. And venture capital and private equity really took off then because it was actually a better model. In the venture capital space, you're charging 2%, which covers your overhead in general, and 20%, I only make money if you make money. Interests are aligned. That's a better model than a publicly traded company where I could guarantee you, everybody on this call who has a firm, if you had to, when I run my hedge fund, if you had to report to me every 90 days, there's no way you could run your firm as efficiently. So basically people were managing earnings. So I think that it changed. And I think we're at an inflection point right now where more and more people, less and less companies are public, more and more companies are going private. And a lot of companies that are private are staying private a lot longer. The family office market, the biggest advantage that family offices have over anybody else is patient capital. They're not looking to flip companies every 2 to 3 or 4 years. As a matter of fact, they would love to hold a company for 20 years and compound everything. So they look at things through a different lens than most institutions, and they typically make great partners. Having said that, it is fragmented, it is siloed, it is inefficient. Dustin, to answer your question, I don't think the family office conferences are necessarily the right place, because what's happened is they've bastardized the business, and it's become service providers pitching to service providers, which is not necessarily a good use of your time. I think putting out good content is really, really important. Getting speaking engagements, writing on, posting on LinkedIn, becoming a thought leader, I think is really, really important. And I think if people think of you as, okay, you're an expert in healthcare AI, and you're putting out a lot of great content, the more content you create, it's a longer runway, but the more people will be attracted to you. And then lastly, I would say it's very easy for me to say I'm really good at what I do, but it's better for other people to say I'm good at what I do. So third-party endorsements are really, really important. And I think that's something, particularly in the venture space, and the world is changing so quickly. I mean, this iPhone, right? It's only like 10 or 12 years old. So my daughter had, I think she was born with it in her hand, but it's so new, but we just take it for granted, and things are changing so quickly. And that's what venture does. And so I think I'm incredibly optimistic with venture in general.